Good morning, everybody. It's about 5 in the morning, and I'm here for the Megillat Esther shir. I'm sorry I'm not in shir itself because I got caught away in the last minute fuel and nobody else could do it, and these things happen. So rather than being Mevatel Torah, let's at least get some learning done. We're at the beginning of chapter 4, and I just want to look at the first two verses today. Okay, I've got here trusty, rusty Megillat Esther. So let's look carefully. If you remember what we talked about until now, we were at the end of chapter 3. Haman has got this wonderful plan to kill off all the Jews. We discussed several issues, most importantly of which is, does Achashverosh even know what happened? There's this theme of deception that we don't, and this is not the first time Achashverosh has been deceived, right? Because Esther deceived him in the previous chapter. She does not know who he is. Okay, although she is honest. She tells him who saves him, but Achashverosh doesn't act. Now he's been deceived by Haman, who has planned to kill off all the Jews, because, as it says in Parak Gimel Pasuk Vav, if you remember, it was disgraceful to him just to do what? To attack Mordechai alone. Let's kill all the Jews. That's what should be done. Okay, so far so good. But now we come to the more serious question, which is, what do we do with when everybody finds out? Remember, Achashverosh is not going to find out. How is Achashverosh not going to find out? Why is he not going to find out? Because he is in the palace. And this decree is being put outside the palace. And because Achashverosh, since the assassination attempt, has cut himself off from what's going on outside the palace, he is no longer aware of the very fact that there's an attempt to kill an entire people. We mentioned this. And when Achashverosh says, who's the one who's doing this? He's actually surprised. He never knew about this decree before. So, let's go to Parak Dalet. If everybody has it, I gotta find it too. One second. Mordechai yadad kol asher naaseh vayikra Mordechai begadav v'yilbash sak ve'efer v'yitzeh b'toch ha'ir v'yitzak zakam b'gedola mara. Mordechai finds out what happens. He goes to the streets of Shushan. He's torn off his clothing, and that's very important. You cannot go into the king's palace if you're not wearing the clothing. I'm wearing a white shirt. Why am I wearing a white shirt? Because I'm been forced to accompany a bunch of guys to the Model United Nations, and these poor boys, who none of them own a white shirt, now being forced to dress up white shirt, tie, because this is the way when you even to pretend to be part of the United Nations, you have to dress up properly. So it's funny to watch. They have no idea what they're doing with these ties and shirts and buttons. It's really hard for them. But here, Mordechai, who is a member, apparently, of the court, at least, if not of the cabinet in Persia, he's walking around. He's taking off, as it were, his Persian identity. Keep that in mind. And he's now just crying and screaming. And then finally he gets to the gate, and it says, he has now cut himself off from access to power. This is very important. If I'm Mordechai, I would say, okay, a bad decree has fallen upon the Jews. I better put on my nicest shirt and my best tie. Got my Batman cufflinks. Can you see them? Look nice, huh? Pretty cool. All right, and show up. You show up in your best clothing, and then you go and you present yourself orderly and present yourself before the king. Make your petition and just explain to him why it's the wrong thing to do. Mordechai doesn't do that. He in fact goes crazy, and he's running around the streets and he's protesting and screaming, and has in fact cut himself off from the Persian seat of power. Now, this leads to an interesting medrash. When it said there was a large kol gedola v'mara, right, a large bitter cry. That phrase is on vayitzak saraka mara gedola. Where else have you heard that phrase? And this is important. When in any book, you have to be aware of the fact that the author is using hints from other books to say, hey, I remember that story. Did I hear that in a different story? Is there a connection between the two? So there's only one other place in Tanakh where the phrase that a person breaks into this loud, bitter cry, and I've got here, Sefer Breshit, Perek Chaf Zayin. What do we have? If you're looking it up, you can see it, please. Okay. Pasuk Lamed Daled. Kishmoa Esav et divrei aviv. And when Esav hears from Yitzchak, I don't have a bracha for you. Yaakov's already taken it. Vayitzak kagdola umara ad mod. He cried out a very bitter, loud cry, very much. And he cries to his father, Barcheni, Gamani Avin. Then they go into the whole discussion. But what's being said here is all of a sudden, Esav has, you know, um, he's lost his brachas because Mordechai, because of Yaakov's ability to deceive his father Yitzchak by dressing up. And that's very interesting here because what the Midrash is immediately going to do, and I just want to read you the Midrash. This is our discussion today. The Midrash here, this is where the Midrash is at its best in noticing the parallels between stories. So let me read the Midrash, okay? The Midrash says as follows. Yaakov caused Esav to cry out once, as is written. When Esav heard his father's words, he burst into wild and bitter song. Zaka Gdola Mara. When was Yaakov punished for this? Because it's very interesting. There's a sense of justice and righteousness. Okay, that even if somebody deserves something, the pain that you cause, if it's above and beyond the pain that's allowed, then Hashem will wait and take it back. We know this from Rosh Hashanah, meaning the shofar blowing we get from what? The cries of Sisera's mother. The Sisera's mother, she's comforted by the fact, as her son's not waiting for her son to come home, he's late. He's busy raping Jewish girls. Fine, she's comforted. But it says she cries 101 times. So we blow the shofar to annul 100 of those cries. But notice there was one cry there. Even among 100 cries are annulled, we don't annul the 101st cry. That one cry is actually there is a purity to a mother's love for a son that goes beyond their immorality, that goes beyond all the evil that they do, and it's not annulled. Now Esav here is crying, and so Yaakov has to be punished. When did this happen? In Shushan, as it says that Mordechai was crying loudly and bitterly. Now, what are we saying here? We are saying here that Mordechai is comparable to Esav and Haman to Yaakov? What is the Midrash doing? I don't understand this. But let's think about this. All right, if we start thinking, well, what are the other parallels? It's interesting. I mentioned earlier, and I didn't do this. I didn't make a mistake with this. Mordechai, that Haman was vayivez. It was disdained. He didn't want to attack Mordechai alone. This word also appears only one other time in Tanakh, where when it says that Esav comes down and he's hungry in Yaakov, and they negotiate, and Yaakov finally feeds him. Vayivez Esav et Bechorah. Okay, that both what happens here. And that Esav there is not able to eat. Why is he not able to eat? Because Mordechai won't. Because Yaakov, is said, "Give me your bechorah. Do you want your bechorah? I'll give you food." And if that's right or not, that's not the question. Esav says, "Make sure. I don't want the bechorah. I can't wait 5 more minutes. I'm going to want to eat now," and he eats. And it says what he does is he disgraces the bechorah. That's important for us because it means that what we see here is a conflict between adversaries, Esav and Yaakov, and one person is the one person shows disdain for the other one, meaning Esav's a stronger figure than Yaakov, and Haman's already a stronger figure than Mordechai, but both of them show disdain. They can't just let bygones be bygones, even when they're challenged. And because of that disdain, they lose something much greater. Haman's going to lose his life. Esav's going to lose the Bechorah. Now, in our case here, what is happening? But here, notice that Mordechai's become Esav. Okay? As we mentioned before, Esav, what happened is that Yaakov, as it were, had taken somebody else's identity. All right? He had taken Esau's identity in order to get the brachot. And that's fascinating. It implies that at this point in time, Yaakov is not worthy of getting the brachot as Yaakov, and he's going to have to earn them. And that's really what the whole Lavan story is about, and that's not for discussion now. But think about how Yaakov becomes worthy of becoming blessed. All right, he wrestles, and that's why it ends with the wrestling of God, and he says, "Now will you bless me?" But Yaakov has assumed Esau's identity. Okay, has Mordechai assumed an identity that's not his? And I'm going to suggest that the answer is yes, for sure. What identity has he assumed? He's assumed the identity of the Persian. As I mentioned before, he had, until now, Mordechai is a court member. He sits at the gate. He's involved in the intrigues of the palace, and he wears Persian clothing. For the first time now, with this decree out, he's now, and as I said, one would have expected him to, well, continue doing that. You put on the nice suit and the nice tie and the nice turban. I don't know what they wore back then, but you go and all the great. No, Mordechai now has to remove an identity that's not his, and to be authentically Jewish, and to turn to Esther and say, it's time now. Until now, haven't discussed our Jewishness. Now we have to bring it out into the forefront. And Esther doesn't. We can understand why it's a surprise, because until now she's been counseled. Don't tell anybody that you're Jewish. Okay, you were blessed without the nose. Don't let anybody find out. And now Mordechai is behaving in a very Jewish way. He's crying. He's not going to the palace. He's removing a false identity. And that really is the tikkun, as it were, for what Yaakov did earlier. Yaakov had assumed a false identity to receive bracha, and it says, well, you're going to, this, what it goes around comes around, says the Midrash. Okay, you made Esav cry, Haman's going to make Mordechai cry. But the result of that cry is that Mordechai is now going to lose that false identity that really was never his. And that's the important thing. It was never his. And therefore now he can go boldly forward as the leader of the Jewish people, as the known leaders of Jewish people. And he's going to slowly start to call upon Esther's heritage, and she's going to have to act in the same way. We'll continue with a comparison of Yosef for the next year. Please be keep reading Parak Dalet in the Megillah, and look for and compare Mordechai's behavior to Yosef when he finds how Yosef behaves to defend his brothers, and we'll call it here. Take care, all the best.